Hi, welcome back to the Life Likes and Landing Pages podcast, also known as the 3Ls podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Gayle.
And I'm Kim. And today we're going to continue our conversation about marketing strategy. And in this episode, we're going to talk about distribution, which is one of those words where you look at it, you're not really sure what we're going to talk about. Like we had this a little bit before.
Yeah, there could be a few different avenues of where we go with this. Now, if you look up marketing distribution online, it will talk about distribution channels and a distribution strategy in relation to the physical distribution of your products. Like, are you going to do a courier? Are you going to do this? That's not what we're going to be talking about
Yeah.
today. So
No.
in the context of what we're talking about, we're going to be talking about the different channels that you can utilize as part of your marketing strategy to get your message out there, basically. So, in the last episode, we talked all about your messaging, and it was a fantastic episode. If you haven't listened to it yet, go and check it out because it was so jam-packed with some really good information from Kim. And this, now you've got your messaging all sorted after you've listened to that episode. We now need to get your message out there. How are we going to do that? So, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. So I think in the past episode, we talked about the what, the message, and then before we talked about the who and the why, like your marketing strategy, your mission, sorry, not your marketing strategy, your mission statement, your audience. And in this is kind of the last piece of the puzzle, I guess. And this is the how, like how are you going to reach those people with your message? And yeah, let's just dive right in, I think.
Let's go.
Like, Gayle, what kind of channels do you think of, like when we're talking about distribution channel and marketing, like what channels do you first think of?
I I think of a lot. So social media is obviously when we look at social media, I think people kind of say social media as one thing, but social media in itself has many different channels, and each of those channels serve a different purpose. So social media, you can kind of say as an overarching channel or medium, but obviously in that umbrella, you've got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and then there's all the ones that people don't think about, like Quora, in like little subsidiary ones like that you could utilize as part of a strategy. Then you've got content marketing, so blogs. What are you doing with your website?
Yeah.
What are you doing with your email marketing? And email marketing itself is, has a couple of different branches. You've got nurture streams in email marketing. You've got and then you've got your regular newsletters in email marketing. There are so many different channels to go at when you're looking at this. And as I kind of touched on before, and I might be jumping the gun a little bit here, but each channel serves a different purpose, and each channel might be utilized to reach different people at different stages of your funnel as well. So those are kind of things to keep in mind when picking which channels you want to focus on.
Yeah. Because what would your advice be to one of your clients, like who wants to start out? Like, are they focusing on all of those different channels, all the social media, all the emails at once, or how would you start?
If you, as a starting point, I would say pick one primary channel for the top of your funnel, which is most likely going to be one of the channels that fall under the remit of social media. Not necessarily all the time, but most likely. And then for mid funnel and bottom of funnel, I would be saying that you need to go into email marketing, me personally. And again, there's no one size fits all. It really is dependent on what the client's goals are, what their needs are, what their capabilities are as well, because you don't want to be picking channels that they can't sustain or can't stay consistent with. But I think as a really good starting point, I would be saying pick one social media channel to focus on. I'll come to something else in a second. Pick one social media channel to focus on and find a way to funnel people from social media to your email. Now, there's 2 points I want to make on that. The first is that any following that you build on social media, the reason we try and take them to email is because you do not own that data. So if your social media gets shut down,
yeah,
and all you've been focusing on is social media, you don't have a database. You do not have access to those people anymore. So that is why it's really important to make sure that you move them through to data that you own, which would be where your email comes in. And the second point I want to make on that is, whilst I'm saying pick one primary channel or one primary platform within the social media remit, that's not to say that you can't repurpose to other channels, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be kind of committing to creating specific LinkedIn content, specific Instagram content. If you pick Instagram as your primary channel, you can repurpose to Facebook. You can repurpose to, your reels, to TikTok, or whatever it might be. But just focus on one. Don't overextend yourself, basically. So yeah, that's how I would do it.
Yeah, and I think you said something great earlier, that you don't want to overextend yourself, because it's not just about the posting, it's about the following up, the like answering, liking comments, like it's about the engagement on that platform.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that on 7 different platforms,
you're gonna get lost.
Yes, you're gonna struggle with not just the content of it, but also with the engagement of it. I would say
you're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to burn out very quickly. Then you're going to kind of go, boom, I don't know what to do. You're going to freeze. Then you're going to stop. Then you're going to lose traction.
Yeah.
And that will just become a cycle that you repeat and repeat. So yeah, definitely don't overextend yourself.
Yeah.
But on that as well, with you mentioning engagement, and I might have said this before in a past episode, engagement is a two-way street. So many people are like, oh, my engagement's low. Okay, what are you doing to engage? Oh,
yeah,
nothing. Wow. If you want engagement, you need to be engaging. It works both ways.
Yeah. So you mean with other people's
other content, engage where your potential customers or clients hang out.
Yeah.
And there's ways and means of doing it that aren't, you don't have to be sleazy and be like stalking your competitors' customers and things like that. There's ways and methods of doing it organically and naturally and with integrity.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to and saying follow all your competitors and DM all of their people that are commenting on their posts, but yeah, you need to be figuring out what your potential audience, where they're hanging out on social media, and give yourself a presence in those places, so that you can be, start to build up a little bit of traction, a little bit of recognition. It's but yeah, a lot of people kind of they skip the fact that engagement is a two-way street. So
no, I totally agree, and I think that's like I said, more than just the content. That's the reason why I think you should focus on that one platform. Also, how I see it, I feel like the nuances between the platforms can be confusing sometimes. So it's in the sense that when you're saying, okay, I'm going to focus on TikTok, I'm going to focus on creating video, and you're just like putting it without like editing, changing anything. You just put it on Instagram and you put it on YouTube, which both have the same format and everything. You won't have the same results because it is a different platform. So you'd have to, like, when we talk about repurposing, it's not just like click repost and you're done. And then comes the engagement. There's a lot more to it, I think, than a lot of people initially think. I see so many people who start a Facebook page, a LinkedIn page, and Instagram page, and then after 2 months, maybe even less, none of them do anything anymore, because like you said, you kind of like freeze and you kind of don't know what the next step is, and then you just like, well, I'll just stay here then. And I think with one platform, that's a lot easier to do.
I mean, we did a whole episode on this as well. Social media fatigue. You get fatigued by it. You get so overwhelmed that you just don't even want to be on there anymore. And I find that myself, like I'm on social media so much for work that I very rarely do anything personally now, or I might have little bursts or whatnot. But yeah, so the quickest way to burn yourself out, especially if you're doing your own marketing, but you're a small business and you've got to do everything else in your business as well, the quickest way to burn yourself out is to overextend yourself and commit to too many channels. So
yeah. So on what you just said, you basically saying start with one social media channel. Have your email, build your email list from day one, and have your website ready from day one. Is that kind of?
I don't think I would. I don't think I would say it's entirely necessary to have a website from day one. And that is highly dependent on obviously a few different factors, the nature of your business. I think a startup business can still encourage transactions without a website. It's just that a website is more ideal.
Yeah.
So I think, I wouldn't want to go to a smaller business who's just starting out and saying you need a website from day one, because then they're going to go, well, I haven't got the money for a website, and therefore I'm not going to start until I do, because, but I mean, I think we've touched on my website story briefly in previous episodes. My website is a shit show at the moment because I hired someone to do it for me and they messed it up. So I don't have a website, but I'm still transacting. I'm still, having transactions with my clients and still booking clients and all of that kind of stuff. So it can be done. It's just that a website, might make it a little easier or a little bit more fluid, that part of the process. But as a new business, I don't think you should use a website, for example, as a reason to not get started because you can't afford one. So you can definitely still make inroads and still make progress without one.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. All right. So you said in the beginning there's multiple types of marketing channels or market ways of doing marketing. You have like organic versus paid. What's your, because I feel like at the moment I see a lot of ads about doing Facebook ads, right? Mm-hmm. I see a lot of like, take my free webinar to learn how to do Facebook ads. And there's nothing wrong with that. I highly believe in Facebook ads. I just feel like, again, there's a moment for everything. You can't just like, so what is your view on
that? Okay. I think, God, there's many different ways we could take this conversation or this part of the conversation. I'm going to start with a lot of people saying, Facebook ads don't work. Facebook ads don't work. They never worked for me. Now, if you are at the start of your business and you have limited budget, and you're not a Facebook ads specialist, and you can't commit to a period of time of consistency with your ads aren't going to work. So in terms of, what should you start with, organic versus paid? In an ideal world, you do the both together. It's really difficult to get organic reach now on social media for the reason of paid ads. Obviously Facebook and Meta, YouTube, all of them, TikTok, they all want to be pushing you into the ads route because that's where they make their money. So it is difficult to get organic reach, but it's not impossible. And if you can't commit to ads in that, you can't. For example, I had a conversation with someone the other day. I had a discovery call with a potential client, and she was saying, what should my budget be? And I said, well, what can your budget be? What budget can you commit to for a minimum period of 3 months? She was like $5 a day. okay, you can run an ad for $5 a day. You can still do that, but you've got to be strategic with how you run those ads.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be running those ads for leads, $5 a day isn't really going to get you.
Yeah.
So I think, as in terms of like what should you be using, organic or paid, it really boils down to what you're trying to achieve, what you can commit to and be consistent with. And you've got to be realistic with the goals. If your budget is minimal, then you've got to be looking at a way to optimize that budget for a realistic goal. I don't know. Does that answer your question, or did I just go off on a massive tangent?
No, I think it makes sense, and I think if I can boil it down, like I think you're saying like it just needs to fit your strategy. Like you've had your goal sets, like that we've talked about goal setting like a little earlier. We'll talk about metrics a little, like I think a few episodes from now. But you need to be consistent, be able to be consistent, commit to it. So it's not a short term fix, even though I feel like social media advertising is pushed like that a lot. I see that a lot. It's a whole different tangent.
And that's a really old school way of thinking about ads. So back in the day when ads all started, you could turn on an ad campaign and see immediate results. You really could. Now you turn on an ad campaign, you've got to go through machine learning. You've got to go through a testing and optimizing phase. You've got to learn what works and what doesn't, because it's back in the day it wasn't as competitive. So and I do think people have become a little bit desensitized to ads now as well. So I think people that kind of go out there and peddle paid advertising as an instant results kind of opportunity are using a very old school way of thinking about ads. That's not to say that it can't be an instant result for you. Maybe you might be someone that does see instant results. It's just that you cannot go into it expecting that anymore. You can't go into it expecting it. You've got to go into it kind of from an opposite perspective and go, okay, I have to anticipate that I'm going to have to spend some money here before I make any. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong with ads, is that, they kind of overextend themselves. They kind of go, okay, I'm going to put, $20 a day in, and then it gets to like a week, 2 weeks, and they haven't seen any return. And they're like, oh, I can't keep doing this. I can't afford it if I'm not getting any money back. Well, the worst thing you can do for your ads is to switch them on and switch them off again constantly. You have to let them run. You have to let the machines learn what works. So if you haven't got a budget that you can consistently commit to for a minimum of a month, you're not ready for ads. You're not ready for paid marketing, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
Stick to organic.
And because we are on this show, you and I are both, I think, more learned and experts in the social media realm. Obviously, when we talk about paid and organic, we get to the search engine stuff. We haven't really talked about this before because it's not really our area of expertise.
Well, no, so search engine optimization and paid Google ads, that's where I actually started, because when I started in marketing, there was no such thing as Facebook ads. That was like, it didn't even exist. So I do that, but the same concept applies to Google advertising. So if you're going to do Google ads, which used to be called AdWords, if you're going to do Google ads, the same concept applies. Like, you still have to go through potentially an even more rigorous process of optimizing your campaigns. You've got to do your keyword research. You've got to figure out your match types. Now, this is going to get really technical for a second, but you've got to figure out your match types. You've got to put in your negative keywords as part of your optimization. You've got to figure out, and for you to be able to do that, you have to be able to run the campaigns to get the data, to figure out what's working and what isn't, to figure out how to optimize. And that takes investment. And I think a lot of people don't see ads as an investment. They see it kind of along the lines of what you said before, Kim. They see it as a quick fix because they're panicking, because they're not making money from organic quick enough, and they need to see some sort of return. Now, it's always been the case that a paid and an organic strategy will always complement each other. You should never, not you should never, that's a bold statement to make. Ideally, you would run the two concurrently and they would complement each other. And that's not to say you can't have success with just doing one, but long term, you want to be building up your organic so that essentially, eventually you can turn down your ads and spend a little bit less money there.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if this also works for social media ads, but I definitely know it's for Google ads. Like if they click on your ad and they then spend a very short amount of time on your website, like everyone bounces off of your website again. That actually affects
your quality
performance of your ad, your quality score, and that will affect how high you score with your ads. So if you have a shitty website, and then you can have a great campaign and a lot of money, but you're still not going to create that, like, get that investment back, basically, because not just your visitors will punish you for that, but you're also Google, because I think one of the big success of Google and all those platforms that have come, like Facebook, all of those, what they are really, but I think Google still is one of, sorry, I'm trying to find the right words here, but they put the user central, even though we don't always feel like it because they're talking about ads and everything. But if your website is shit, Google will not show it to their users. And I think that's why the users think when someone scores high in Google, they feel that trust because Google has okayed it, so to speak.
And the social media equivalent of that is engagement. So Google, it's all about engagement. It's just engagement in different ways. Google looks at how people engage with your landing page and your website. Because Google is all about relevancy. How relevant is this listing or this result that we put in front of this person in relation to these keywords? How relevant is it? And they're going to determine that by how that person behaves once they've clicked through. Social media is no different. Meta is no different. It's all about how, for social media, how much are you encouraging interaction on that platform? Are you keeping those people on that platform? That's what they want to know. Google, are you keeping them on your website? Social media, are you keeping them on our platform? And the more you can do that, the better you are at it, the more you're going to be ranked, the more you're going to be shown, the more success you're going to have. So there's a lot of moving parts. I'll hit you with a stat that always blew my mind. For Google, in relation to SEO and AdWords and rankings and all of that kind of stuff, there used to be a guy called Larry, I want to say Fishkin, but I'm thinking of Rand Fishkin. There's Larry someone who used to be like head of SEO years and years ago for Google. And at that time, and there'll be more now, at that time there were over 200 ranking factors that would determine where you were shown in Google based on all these. And even the head of Google at the time could not tell you what all of those 200 ranking factors are. And that's going to bring me to something else, which I'm not going to rant about. I'm going to really try hard not to rant about. This is why it pisses me off. This is why it pisses me off when people go, I know how to break the algorithm. No, you fucking don't. Because even Google, even Instagram, Adam Mosseri can't even tell you, head of Instagram cannot even tell you all of the different decision factors and ranking factors that go into what makes you successful in Instagram. That's why you need to be careful of people who say, I can break the algorithm. Sit down, shut up. No, you can't.
I agree. And also, like, especially when we're talking about like machine learning and AI and stuff, like even if the head of Google knows exactly the 200 ranking factors, one of them is AI, is like machine learning, machine thinking. So he won't be able to tell you what how that influences the rest. So I think and the only thing that I've known, and I love Google, I'm a big fan of Google. What I know is that they put the relevance first. it's easy. All the products for Google, I think, are very easy to use for the first time, straight off the bat. Like, it's very intuitive, and it's because they create something relevant for the user. And I think when it comes back to ads and organic, like, if you're not relevant, you won't score no matter how much money you throw against it. And I think that's one of the great things about that platform, but also about the engagement, like you said, on social media. Like, you don't need that huge budget to get your results if you have your organic stuff and your strategy sorted.
It's the same reason you don't need a huge following, you know. You can see great success as a small business with a small following and a small budget. You can see great success and gain great traction if you tick the boxes that they want you to tick. And that's not, you know, that's not going viral or anything like that. It is engaging. It is keeping people on the platform. It's building community. It's the human, it's a social part of social media. If you're doing the social part of social media, at some point it's all going to click into place for you. So we've gone off on a massive tangent now. So
no, I think
it's all really
tangent.
relevant and important, though.
Yeah. I think it is.
In terms of,
I do think we're putting a lot of information to the listeners in this episode. So it might be good to, like, we've created a resource for everyone to download, where we talk about these different distribution channels, like what purpose they have, a couple of tips on how to do copy, a couple of tips what kind of where they fit in your customer journey and for who they are perfect to use. So if this episode was a little bit like, whoa, there's too much information, I couldn't even keep up with my notebook and pen, download the resource for free in the description. Yeah, that's what I just wanted to say here, because we've talked about a lot of things right now.
Yeah, and I didn't expect to be going into like SEO and all that kind of stuff, but I love talking about those kind of things, so I do. But I mean, and that is another channel that you can use. Like, organic SEO is something that ideally you will focus on. Which brings me to a different point about all these channels. Each channel, yes, it's quicker to see traction with ads and paid marketing. Anything you do for SEO or organic, I think you need to kind of, if we're looking at you know, how much time you invest, it comes back to you either invest with time or money, right? So you either invest with money and you see quicker results, but if you're looking at SEO as a channel to get your messaging out there, anything you do for SEO today, you need to kind of expect to manage your expectations and tell yourself, I'm not going to see any traction from this until 6 months in the future, because it takes a while to gain traction with your organic stuff on any channel, but especially with SEO and in Google and in the search engines. I think you need to kind of manage your expectations, go, everything we do today, we're not going to see the benefit of this for 6 months. But when you do start to see the benefit of that, when you do start to reap those benefits in, everything that you've done for the last 6 months is really going to start to pay off.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked a lot about online digital marketing right now, and there is also a thing called traditional marketing.
Traditional marketing? What's that?
I know.
Do that anymore.
So for everyone who doesn't know what traditional media means, it's the radio, it's TV, it's the newspapers, magazines. It's not just I don't know if there's like a overarching description. There probably is, but it's like it's the billboards along the street, it's the flyers you get in the mailbox, it's all those like more old school ways of marketing. So I studied journalism, and one of my majors was magazine journalism, because I found out really quickly that the writing newspaper articles wasn't really for me. I wanted to do like the bit more longer articles. And I think magazines, podcasts, like even for some audiences, TV, or you see them in your local cinema, you see like ads and stuff. Like, I think they can be super relevant when they're done really, really well and fit in your strategy. Yeah, I just want to avoid that we're not also discussing these channels, because they do have, I believe they do have a place in your marketing strategy.
I agree. Now, I'm just going to caveat with this, that obviously, I think I don't want to speak for you, Kim, but I think you will agree. I am obviously very biased towards the digital channels. However, from memory, and I'd have to fact check it and all of that kind of stuff, because it is just something that's come to me now. I remember reading something in the last 3 to 6 months maybe that said that traditional channels, because of the saturation online now, traditional channels were actually not making a comeback, but a lot more people were starting to re-explore traditional channels. And I think, that's something that, would be interesting to look into. Not as a medium for marketing.
Oh, okay.
People were looking at radio ads again. People were looking at, and I think as well, look, you only have to mention the Super Bowl to make the argument for TV ads, and the impact that a TV ad can have for a brand. Now, the downside to that, and I think the downside to a lot of the traditional marketing methods, is that I do think that they are a little less budget friendly a lot of the time. So for new businesses, it might feel like traditional marketing channels are not as accessible, which is fair enough. I completely understand that and can resonate. But then you look at things like the Super Bowl and the ads and the impact that those ads have for the businesses that and we're talking about prime real estate and advertising at that point. But I also think that some of the same concepts or principles, apply to offline or traditional marketing. In that, you've got to understand where that channel fits in your strategy. You wouldn't
100%.
like, again, I was going to make a sweeping statement, then I'm going to retract that. If you're going to do radio ads, you've got to understand what the purpose of those radio ads are. Are radio ads ideal for conversion? Probably not. Are they ideal for brand awareness? Almost definitely. TV ads, you can make an argument that they could be good for conversion, but brand awareness. So it's understanding again where it fits in the funnel. So for example, like you wouldn't, and this is something that I've seen a past employer make this mistake. You wouldn't go to a PR agency and tell them that you need, the metric, for example, is revenue. Because the PR agency cannot guarantee you conversions. What they can guarantee you is brand recognition, brand awareness, reach. They wouldn't. So you've got to make sure, and again, this is universal in marketing. You've got to make sure that the metric you are tracking aligns with the goal of the channel that you're using and what that channel is best optimized for. Hopefully that makes sense.
100%. Yeah. No, it does. And I think what I'd like to add to that is if you have a very specific niche, so I don't know, your target audience are farmers in Queensland. I'm just like spitballing here. Like maybe a contribution to a magazine or a website of a brand that's well known within that community could be very, very helpful. Again, you need to figure out where it is in your funnel and where it is in your like what your goal is with it. But I think because we're so focused, I think as a whole, not just you and me, I think as a whole, like on the digital side, that part can be missed. But if you have like a good article, if you can write a good article, you know, for a magazine and you send that to the editor and they're happy to include that because you're part of that community and you're reaching that community, then that could be super valuable when it comes to like if your goal is like thought leadership. If you want to be that expert in that community, I think it works really well when you do have that niche. I don't think for me it might be a little difficult because I don't have that niche. I wanted to say yet, but I don't think I'll ever have a niche. But some companies are so niche that I think look beyond what you can do on social media. Sometimes some audiences are difficult to reach on social media. They might not search for you. They need to get that from that network. So make sure that you get into that network through, you know, interacting with the media, traditional media that are relevant for that community.
And that brings
I thought that was still
go on, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I was just saying, like, I think that's an important thing to add here, like next to the digital. And all the questions before are the same, you know, who are your audience? Why are you doing it? And like, what's your purpose? But yeah, don't forget the traditional media, that they still have a role to play.
And that brings us to something that we haven't discussed yet. What you were just saying about, you know, essentially moving in the circles of people that, you know, relate to your niche and is networking. That is another potential distribution channel. Again, understand where it fits in your funnel, for sure. But what a great way to connect with you know, peers in your industry, you know, people that need your services, and connect with them in a way that feels natural, because marketing is essentially about connection. That's all you're trying to do, is build connections with people. You're trying to build that's not all you're trying to do, but you're trying to build connections with people, and networking channels, you know, trade shows, conferences, keynote speeches, they're all other ways of getting your messaging out there as well, that definitely can be quite powerful if they're done in the right way. So, you know, you might not 100% make them part of your immediate strategy, but eventually you might kind of go, okay, you know, our 3-year goal is to position ourselves as, you know, I want to be doing keynote speeches, or, you know, whatever it might be.
I think that's I think we've covered a lot about this topic. I think we can talk about this for many, many more hours, but I also think it's a good moment to wrap it up.
People.
So in short, look at where your audience is, keep that engagement up if you're searching for social, or if you're using social media. Focus on just a few channels before you move on to the rest. Like, make sure that you have that down. Paid, yes, but only if organic is also yes. Is working for you. I think do you have anything more to add, Gayle?
I think that just the most important, that was a lot of information, and I think the most important takeaway is to now not, for our audience, is to now not go, I'm gonna do it all. I think it really is just to focus. Keep your focus. You've got all of these different options, and I think you can get a bit overwhelmed, and you want to have all your fingers in all the pies, because the temptation is to kind of think, you know, if I'm everywhere, then I'm gonna, but that's the equivalent of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks. You've got to stay focused. So I think that's probably the most important takeaway from this. Just stay focused and relevant.
Sounds good. Yeah. Sounds good. If you are listening or watching this and you are like a little confused, go check out our download that we put together for you to see what kind of channels are out there and how you can pick the one for you. And we'll give you some extra little tips about how you can fit that in your strategy, like the ones we've mentioned throughout this episode. Yeah, if you've liked this episode, please let us know. We'd love to hear your feedback. Like us, follow us wherever you subscribe, wherever you listen to us. Let us know what you think, and let us also know if there are certain topics that you would really like us to discuss in the future, because this is episode 10. What's this, 10? I think it was 10.
I think we think it's 10. Yeah. So we've lost track of episodes.
So we are we are only starting out. So if there's any topic that you'd like us to cover, please let us know in the comments.
Yeah. As you can tell, me and Kim really do like to talk about this stuff. So, but we want to make it, it's your podcast at the end of the day. It's a podcast for you. What are you going to get out of it? So,
yeah. Next week we are talking about sales, because that also has a place in your marketing strategy. So
sales is such a dirty word for some people too, so that's going to be an interesting episode.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about that for next week, and we will see you then. Bye.
We'll see you then.